Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Monday, the 8th of December, 2025. Have to move hands down a little bit more there. How are you all doing this morning? Hope you're all feeling fruity. Hope you're all feeling well. We've got Diz in the chat. We've got Harry Flashman. We've got Elle in the chat. We've got Liz and Diz. Hey, Liz and Diz. Woo! We've got Sarah in there. Liz Allen there. All these lovely, lovely people. If you'd like to join our lovely people in the chat, all you need to do is hit the big juicy subscribe button. Give us a like first, of course. We always like a like. Hit the juicy subscribe button. Wait for a minute, and you'll be able to join the chat. And if you are subscribed, hit the bell notification icon. Yeah, it's all good. So I'm just having to move my chat down a little bit because the YouTube has changed things. Because they like changing things. They like changing things up. They do. The bastards. Anyway, we're going to be talking a little bit today, at least at the start, and then we might get on to other stuff, about this bloody drone strike, not drone strike, this strike against a vessel in the Caribbean that was going from Venezuela to Suriname. Now, if your geography is not so great, Suriname is actually to the east of Venezuela. You've got Venezuela, then you've got Guyana, and then you've got Suriname, old Dutch Guyana. It's now called Suriname, and its capital is called Paramaribo, which is, you know, a bit like Haribo, you know. Anyway, this boat was heading towards Suriname, and the American authorities decided on the 2nd of September 2025 that this particular boat was carrying drugs to Suriname. Okay, cool. Let's stop that from happening. So this is what I was talking about the other day when I was like, these people don't understand how boats work, because no one's going to be getting on a speedboat, I don't think, and going on a speedboat, right, with 4 outboard motors to the US from Venezuela. That distance is insane. Nobody's going to do it, not least because it would require you to avoid Guantanamo Bay. Like, that kind of gets slightly in the way of things if you're going up that way. I don't know what routes they think that these drug dealers are going to take, but if you want to add an extra 1,000 miles onto your journey, then be my guest. But the cost of such an operation would be in the tens of thousands, and that would just be on the fuel alone, unless the whole boat was filled with fuel that they got from Venezuela, which you can get that cheap in Venezuela. I don't know, but then there'd be no room for the drugs. None of it makes any sense. Anyway. So on the 2nd of September, the US forces under the Joint Special Operations Command, or JSOC, carried out this airstroke drone strike on a small boat in the southern Caribbean Sea, killing 11 people on board in what Trump called a drug-carrying boat. It was full of drugs. Yeah. We need to come to this in a moment, because there's something I want to talk about, is like who's actually responsible for the opioid epidemic in America. And I'll just between you and me, you know, spoilers and everything. It's not Venezuela. It's not Venezuelan drug dealers. It's really not. Yeah. Anyway, so Trump was obviously publicly bragging about this. He boasted about the strike, shot out a boat with a massive amount of drugs. I mean, this is a tiny fucking boat. This is a little speedboat. It's not like a cargo ship. They would have fitted fewer drugs on that boat than they would like in a single cargo container. A 20-foot container would probably get more drugs in it. A 40-foot one certainly would. And there were 11 people on board. There's a chance that some of these people might have actually been being trafficked from Venezuela, perhaps to Suriname, and then maybe on elsewhere. So maybe they were victims already. We don't know. Nobody knows. But I'll tell you what I do know is that the blowing up of this boat is a war crime. Going back and blowing up the survivors in the water is a textbook war crime. So double war crime. So Trump was bragging about this. He claimed it was the drugs are controlled by Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro. And he insisted that the drugs were coming into our country, or the US, to kill a lot of people. This is what he said, right? It's coming into our country to kill a lot of people. No due process. No due process. This is the thing, like, normally, under normal circumstances, if you're going to do something as batshit insane as this, first of all, you have the permission from the country that you're doing this in. So Colombia is a really good example for this, right? Colombia worked with the DEA in America to take out the Medellin cartel, Pablo Escobar, etc. That was a joint operation by special forces in Colombia together with the American DEA, the Drugs Enforcement Agency. In this case, they've got no permission from the Venezuelan authorities to carry out any kind of strikes against their own against the Venezuelan civilians, and yet they're doing it anyway. I mean, there's so many layers of the illegality on all this. And don't forget, Trump has a very similar attitude towards drug dealers that Dirty Duterte, Robert Duterte, in the Philippines had. Now, Dirty Duterte is currently in The Hague facing fucking war crimes tribunal, because he literally committed war crimes in his war on drug dealers. It wasn't a war on drugs, it was a war on drug dealers. And don't forget that most of the dealers dealing this stuff are low-level criminals, right? They're not all Scarface, they're not all fucking, The Godfather or something. A lot of them are just, guys working on the streets, effectively. Male prostitutes, but they give drugs instead of sex. But the people who buy the stuff, especially the cocaine, are people who are very well heeled. Generally speaking, they're people with a bit of wodge. People who can afford a drug habit of cocaine are generally very, very well off people. Are they going to be executed? No. But Trump has said in a rally, he openly called for the death penalty for drug dealers. Not for the people taking it, not for the people buying it, but for the people dealing it. The people, doing what capitalism does best, supplying a demand. But he promised that he would ask Congress for such a law to be put through. He's never actually done this because he's not interested in Congress. His Congress has been mothballed as far as he's concerned. He just safely ignores it most of the time. Have the rest of the Epstein files come out yet? Have they? Are they going to? I don't know. He's bypassed, leapfrogged Congress and gone straight to public execution. Well, not public, but execution, de facto summary executions by drone. These are executions carried out without any legal basis for the action, but also the people in the water, when they went back for the double tap 41 minutes later or however long it was, right? They, under normal circumstances, would have been plucked out the water and would be made to stand trial for their crimes, right? But not under Trump's DOJ, Trump's Pentagon, no. Not under his Department of War. And in reality, there's no evidence whatsoever that the 11 people on board this boat were high-level traffickers. At best, they were maybe low-level couriers or mules. And drug trafficking is often tied to human trafficking, as I've said. And some of them on board that boat might have been victims rather than perpetrators. We don't know. But here's the thing, right? I mentioned about the real hypocrisy here. There's two things, right? There's a company in America called Purdue, right? And they are owned by the Sackler family. And they caused the opioid epidemic that has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. They were held civilly liable for misleading marketing, and yet the US did not bomb Purdue HQ. And also, Honduran ex-president Juan Hernandez who oversaw hundreds of tons of cocaine heading to the US, was convicted. And he was sentenced to 45 years in jail. The rest of his life. Just getting on. The rest of his life in jail. And yet he was pardoned by Trump. So the Sackler family, who weren't targeted, who pumped hundreds of thousands of tons of drugs into American people's faces, into their veins, into their bodies, that advertised these opioids, this legal heroin that they were selling. Don't forget, heroin is an opioid. It's derived from opium. That's what an opioid is. So the Sackler family, this pharmaceutical firm, they managed to make a version of heroin that was illegal, and then they pushed it and pushed it and pushed it. And as a result, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of Americans have died. And they were found civilly liable for this in a court, and nothing happened. They were given a bit of a fine and a slap on the wrist for literally killing 1 million Americans. Slap on the wrist. And Juan Hernandez, I mean, hundreds of tons of cocaine coming into the US, not a boatful. And not only is he, not executed, he's also let off the hook by Trump. And the people driving this are the people like Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary and Fox News commentator, who's an absolute fucking monster of a man. This man is a rapist. He absolutely is a rapist. He raped a woman and got away with it. He absolutely got away with it because he's a fucking scumbag, and he's got powerful, well-connected friends, and a lot of men who get away with sexual assault get away with it. This is why, just to go on a little bit of a tangent for a moment, this is why it's fucking crazy that so many men, the biggest fear they have in their life, it's not spiders, or snakes or heights. It's to be accused of a sexual crime that they didn't commit. Well, here's the secret, lads. Come here, dickheads, right? You're more likely to be raped yourself than be accused of a sexual crime that you didn't do. Okay, so there's the thing. Maybe you should be more worried about other men rather than, what women might do or say about you. But even if you are accused of something, and even if you're found guilty of that thing that you fucking did, you'll get away with it. You will absolutely get away with it. Look at these celebrities. Look at Kevin Spacey. Look at Donald Trump. He was found civilly liable of sexually assaulting a woman. And yet, he was voted for president. So, lads, calm down, all right? You don't worry about it. Only 1% of people who are accused of rape actually go to jail for it. The odds are in your favour because of the patriarchy. Well done, lads. Fucking weirdos. That proper does my head in that like people are like, but what about women making false accusations? Like, it fucking hardly ever happens, and when it does, the chances of you actually getting done for a false allegation and going down for it is vanishingly slim. And even if you do, it's not going to affect your job prospects. It didn't for Pete Hegseth. He was still made the Secretary of State for fucking war. It was defense at the time. It's war now. So yeah, Pete Hegseth. He wants more lethality, fewer lawyers. That's what he said. He said less lawyers, actually. It should be fewer. Trump's defense secretary, he's argued for loosening the rules on deadly force, attacking the Geneva Convention and defending torture at Abu Ghraib. One chapter of his book is literally called More Lethality, Less Lawyers. It should be fewer lawyers. Fewer. It's a countable quantity. It should be. Doesn't matter. Anyway, and there's been an anti-lawyer purge in the National Secretary machinery. This is CIA lawyers, National Security machinery. So this is CIA lawyers, this is NSC lawyers, this is the National, lawyers, including top lawyer. I don't say pop lawyer then. Should be a pop lawyer. You do some lawyering and then you sing a song. Top lawyer Paul Ney, and also Korea Pentagon lawyers repeatedly warned that there is no legal basis. There's a legal bias. There's no legal basis for such strikes because drug trafficking is a crime. It's not war. It's not war. It's like going, oh my God, there's too many pickpockets in London. Let's bomb London because we've got to go because it's a war. And you're like, well, that's not how it works. This is a civil crime, as in, like, it is a crime in the countries in which it's being perpetrated, but you can't declare war on a crime. It's just a bizarre thing. It's why the war on drugs has never worked and never got anywhere in 50, 60 years. There's still drugs, my friends. The drugs are still there. And the rich fuckers who like taking drugs, they still can get the drugs. There's no one I know who has the money for it who can't get the drugs that they want. Like, there's no problem with the whole supply and demand thing, because you can take down a drug enterprise, you can take down a drug cartel. It doesn't matter. Another one will rise up to take its place seconds later, literally the next day. So yeah, many of the people warning of the fact that there's no legal basis for this kind of thing have been sidelined, they've been reassigned, or they've been pushed out by halfway through this year. And then you've got Stephen Miller, who's a fucking scumbag. He's the guy advising Trump. And his argument is that he wanted to bomb the boats and release the video publicly. But the CIA lawyers said there was no self-defense bias and therefore no legal justification, forcing the White House to seek another route. And the NSC and Pentagon lawyers have been cut out. And by the time the policy matured, the NSC's legal team was gone. And the National Security Council, the Pentagon's career lawyers were excluded from the process, and the decisions were made by a small circle of political appointees friendly to Hegseth's more lethality kind of mentality. And then you've got CIA Director John Ratcliffe, who has backed the operation, putting a rat into a Ratcliffe there. Once the Office of Legal Counsel, the OLC, blessed the the basic legal theory, giving Trump political confidence to proceed and then publicize the strikes. And I just so grim that the way that this has come about, Trump and his little minions have gone about getting rid of anyone sensible, anyone nice in the administration in order to do whatever they fucking want. Trump wants to get to a point where he can shoot someone in the face on Fifth Avenue and get away with it, which, according to the Supreme Court last year, he can. Now, this is something that fucking winds me up. So the Supreme Court decided last year, when Trump wasn't president, but Biden was, that the president was above any kind of law while he was president. Okay, so you can't prosecute president for any crimes he commits while being president. Essentially, that's what it says. So while that was the case, what Biden should have done is got hold of Trump, told his military to get hold of this fat orange rapist creep, and they should have taken him away to the fucking desert in New Mexico and dug a hole in the ground, threw the motherfucker in the hole, and then filled in the hole. And then gone, I don't know where he's gone. Just denied it all. And then years later, when it came out that it was Biden who actually did it, and it was very naughty and he shouldn't have done that, he can just ring and say, well, the Supreme Court said it was okay. That's what he should have done if he had any fucking balls. But, we've got to worry about what the papers say. We've got to worry about, that would have given Trump too much power. I really don't think it would have. I saw a good line, says Ernie Burns. Even Stephen Miller thinks of Stephen Miller when he wants to stop himself climaxing. Oh, Jesus, Ernie, that's awesome and awful. Dragon said, I just had a look at the overdose rates in the US. Different sources hover around 95,000 people for the last seven peak August 2023. Yes. Indeed. But it's not just overdoses that kill people in drug cases. It's people getting behind the wheel of a car and then slamming into a tree, or just innocent bystanders getting mown down by someone who's off their tits on ketamine or whatever drug they're taking. There's lots of... there's also suicides that happen because people can't get their drugs, or, they're having difficulty getting through life because of the drugs or whatever. I mean, they're not necessarily an overdose, but they're definitely caused by the drugs. There's a huge factor in there. There's lots of things where there's a lot of human misery that stems from drugs, and not necessarily from the drugs themselves, which, I hate all drugs. It's fine. I hate all drugs, illegal drugs equally. But at the same time, I think they should be fucking legal, because then all the ancillary misery that is shipped in with them is taken out of the equation. Anyway, so this is a few days after the this blowing up of this boat, right? The OLC the Office of Legal Counsel, they sent a memo out calling it a non-international armed conflict. Sorry, this is when they started doing this. A small interagency group of lawyers and a political appointees drafted a long memo claiming that the US is a non-international armed conflict with two designated terrorist groups, including Cartel de Los, which is and therefore or Loles. Therefore they can apply the law of armed conflict rather than domestic law enforcement standards. But and the criteria is this: under international law and the Department of Defense, now Department of War manual, NIAC, which stands for non-international armed conflict, requires a non-state groups that are organized like armed forces and engage in a sustained, intense violence, such as civil war or insurgencies. You can't argue that some drug dealers are engaged in sustained intense violence. They're just not. Maybe against each other, but then they're only taking out other drug dealers. What's the problem? I thought that's what Trump wanted. But this claim is bogus. Experts across the legal spectrum and political spectrum say that these gangs do not meet this non-international armed conflict criteria. They are not organized like armies. They are not waging hostilities against the US. And in the case of Cartel de Loles, they may barely exist in the way that the administration describes or thinks they seem to. And even under this very vague interpretation, this very loose interpretation of what a non-international armed conflict is, the law of war still applies, right? So even in theory, if this thing exists that they've made up with this fucking memo, declaring what is legal and what is not legal is usually something that is reserved for Congress and the Supreme Court. But whatever, let's just issue a memo and say something is legal. I will make it legal, as the emperor once famously said. The law of armed conflict still applies in full in these situations, and the law explicitly bans what they call no quarter orders, which is when people go after the wounded, the sick, shipwrecked people from attack. In fact, the shipwrecked people clause is a textbook example. It's given as an example of a time when you cannot fire on people. And what happened on September the 2nd is they blew up this ship with 11 people in it. 9 of them died. Half the boat, I say ship, it was a boat, it was a speedboat about the size of the fucking table I've got underneath me. Like, it was fucking tiny. Anyway, it smashed in half, right? And it was a panga. And Trump doesn't know what a panga is because he's a fucking idiot, doesn't know anything, right? And he was saying that it was kept afloat by all the drugs in it because obviously cocaine floats, right? Right? No, it's kept afloat by the fact that in a panga they have these compartments, right, that you sit on. And these compartments are comprised of fiberglass, which is watertight and airtight. And there's nothing in them. They're sealed, and so they're full of air. So even when a panga turns upside down, these compartments, which are like blocks that you sit on, mean that the panga doesn't actually sink. So even if the panga is split in half, the engines are blown up, fine, but the actual front of the panga shouldn't sink. It should, unless all of those little bubbles of air inside the panga boat are breached in some way. And obviously there was a couple of air pockets that were still, solid, airy, I don't know, not solid. So the thing wasn't actually sinking, right? And the two survivors clinging to this overturned bit of the boat. So the boat had turned over and it was the front end and they were clinging onto it, like clinging onto driftwood, effectively. If the boat was made of wood, it would have been driftwood. It was made of polystyrene. It was made of fiberglass, so obviously they're clinging onto these compartments. And Trump's saying, actually no, it was the drugs that were keeping it floating. They were still going to try and bring the drugs, and they had radios. They had radios apparently. They've got to radio people to say, hey, come get some more drugs and take the drugs from us and take them to America, which is like 1,000 miles away. Let's just go, woo! I mean, mad, absolute insanity, just absolute freaking insanity. Like the idea that any of this is real. But this is what happened. The American military went back after 40 odd minutes and killed the survivors in the water. And that is a war crime. It's just a straight cut war crime. No fucking about. That is a war crime. Under every single interpretation of a war crime, everywhere in the world, that is a war crime. To do that to citizens of another person's country, it's like there's so many layers of war crimes going on here. It's actually a triple-decker sandwich, isn't it? They don't have a right to be declaring war on some drug dealers that may or may not exist in someone else's country in the first place. Then they don't have the right to blow them out of the water, and they definitely don't have the right to go back and kill the survivors. And the OLC, this group of fucking lunatics that are being controlled by the Office of Legal Counsel, they only signed off. This is really important on these strikes where they blew a boat out the water and then killed the survivors. Right, viciously killed the survivors who had been, hanging on to this. May have been in severe distress and pain, because the boat that they were on had just blown up. They only signed off on the legality of this strike 3 days after the boat was hit, which means the military chain of command cannot truthfully claim that they relied on the memo's advice at the time of the initial strike, because the memo didn't exist. The memo didn't exist till 3 days afterwards. And just like you can't make a crime after the event and say, right, from now on, all the people who did this terrible thing 3 days ago need to go to jail. If there isn't a law against that terrible thing, you can't put those people in jail. That's just the rule. That's just the rule. So this whole thing was revealed by the Washington Post, and they revealed that the first strike did not kill everyone. After the boat was destroyed, commanders watched live drone footage as 2 survivors clung to the wreckage in the water. 41 minutes of live feed, according to those who watched the video, and they were trying to right the capsized remains of the boat. So it's just the front of the boat, just the bow of the boat, and they were trying to get it upright so they could sit on it, I guess, because it's not great to be in the water that long, even in the Caribbean, which is substantially warmer than the North Sea or the English Channel. They tried. They clung on to it while the U.S. Commanders in the command center discussed what to do, and then Admiral Frank M. Mitch Bradley, the commander in charge, eventually ordered a second strike on the 2 men clinging to the record, a classic double tap, reportedly in line with Hex's earlier kill everyone, no survivors guidance. No radios, no calling backup. In congressional briefings, Bradley has admitted that the men did not appear to have radios or communication gear, contradicting earlier administration claims that the second strike was needed to stop them calling other traffickers, because it's like a wasp, they'll send a signal out to the other wasps, and the wasps will come and they'll sting everyone. Off the coast of Guyana, just 1,000 miles away from fucking America. Like, what the fuck? Like, this is nothing. You know what this reminds me of? When the Americans were going, we've got to declare war on Iraq, right? There was someone, I think it was a filmmaker, it might have been Michael Moore, actually, went around with a map of the Middle East without any names on the maps. And they just like, point out Iraq, point out Afghanistan, go on, where is it? And no one knew. Nobody knew. No one got it right. Didn't know where the fuck it was. Didn't care. It's just some other place. I know there's too many things to have in your head at one time, and not everyone has the opportunity to go and visit these places, and therefore it sticks in your head a little bit because you know which countries are next to them, because you need to get in and out of these motherfuckers. But going on these daft military adventures in other people's countries because they're seen as a threat to America, was just bonkers then, 25 years ago. It's fucking bonkers now. It's just insane. Like, what the fuck? What are you doing? Stop it. Interfering in other people's countries and fucking them up. I thought that was over. I thought that era was over. A brief fucking window of opportunity for it to be over about 10 years ago. But then on came fucking Donald Trump. The guy who got a fucking peace prize. Oh, by the way, he got a peace prize at the weekend, right? Off Infantino on Friday. Sorry, on Friday. Got a peace prize, didn't he, Donald Trump? They made a peace prize from it. And he had a medal, and he put his medal on like a fucking, participation award. And I hate to break this to you, Trumpy, you twat, but you know those hostilities that you stopped on the Thai-Cambodian border? Well, turns out they're just heated up again. Yeah, that just started again. So maybe you could stop it again and give yourself another fucking peace prize. While you were getting your peace prize, one of the countries that you brought peace to, two of the countries you brought peace to, were just bombing each other. Yeah. So yeah, there was the idea that they were trying to radio other people is just nonsense. And then there's this absurd cocaine hazard rationale. Bradley argued that the part of the vessel remained afloat because it still held cocaine. Look, I'm not an expert on cocaine. I've never taken it, never want to take it, and never want to be anywhere near it. I don't want to be near people who have taken it because they act like twats, right? It turns nice people into twats. It turns twats into uber twats. Everyone watching this will have some experience of having to deal with someone off their tits on coke, and it is not a pleasant experience, except maybe for the person off their tits on coke, but they don't seem to give a shit about anything, so whatever. I'm pretty sure it's like flour, right? I'm not saying that it's like flour in terms of what it does. I'm sure you can't bake a cake with it. But I'm pretty sure, right, if I get a bag of flour and throw it in the water, right, I'm pretty sure, I know I'm not guaranteeing this, but I'm pretty sure that the flour will get wet and then it would sink. I think it might even sink even if it wasn't wet inside the flour, because it's like, but once it gets wet, I'm pretty sure if you got a lump of wet flour and dropped it in a bowl of water, I'm pretty sure it would sink. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100%, but I don't think there's too many flour-made boats or vessels that have been made out of flour over the years. I don't know. I might be wrong, but it's not something that I would think of. I just think, it's a Topanga. It's got some compartments that are airtight compartments that have got air in them that allow it to float even when it's been blown up and it's half in the water. But yeah, one congressional source called this idea that the vessel remained afloat because it still held cocaine. So this is half a vessel. This is just the bow and it's upside down. And he also claimed, this is what Bradley claimed before Congress, that hypothetically this cocaine in the cocaine in the boat, right, in the shipwreck, could hypothetically attract others to retrieve the drugs and stay in the fight. Just give me a moment. Just give me a moment, right? Could you imagine, right? Yeah, you're in the water. You're in the water. And you're holding on to the shipwreck, right? A little bit of fiberglass. You're holding on to this fiberglass, right? In the water. And somehow there is a drug dealer in Venezuela who's like, guys, and all his men come over. I know he'll be speaking Spanish. Okay, so and he'll go, there's cocaine in the water. What? Oh, about 300 miles east of here. There's cocaine in the water. I can smell it because I'm like a shark. Drug dealers are famously like sharks. You can smell a drop of blood in a mile of water. We can smell the cocaine in the water. And we cannot fight the instinct to go and retrieve this cocaine to keep the war going, because this small boat with its tiny amount of cocaine on it is absolutely fundamentally important for the war effort. I mean, what the fuck? I'm just trying to think of this thing in my head, and his little consigliere, his little right-hand man going, but Jefe, if the Americans have obviously blown up this boat that we can smell somehow, and maybe they're still monitoring it with a drone. And anyway, they'll still be there, and by the time we get there, maybe they'll blow us up as well, because obviously the US military is there and we don't know what they're going to do next. Are they going to arrest the people who are surviving in the water? Are they going to pluck the cocaine out of the water? If we start making this 300-mile trip to where this boat has been blown up and we get there in about 6 hours' time, and you know, it might all be over. The boat might have sank. The cocaine might be at the bottom of the fucking briny. It's just like, no, friends, we need to go and retrieve this cocaine. I can smell it. Imagine like a scene. It's like a beach, and all these drug dealers are sitting on the beach, you know, playing cards or whatever drug dealers do on beaches. And one of them's in the water snorkeling. He comes running out like there's a fucking shark in the water. Guys! Takes off the snorkel. What? What is it? There's a small amount of cocaine in the water 300 miles away. Oh my God. And they throw the cards down on the table. Quick! To action! To our rocket! To our rocket-propelled ship! That'll get us there in 3 minutes. And we can retrieve our precious cocaine. Or opioids. Or crystal meth. I don't know. What the? And this is a grown man. This is the infantilization. That's the word I want. Infantilization of everything. Everyone now behaves like a 12-year-old. Everyone on the internet, everyone in politics, everyone on TV, everyone on the radio, they all behave like fucking 12-year-olds. You ask why these knobheads do the things they do, you go, because they're 12. This is what a 12-year-old would do, you know? Oh, I've blown up the boat in the water with my little remote control boat. Oh, quick, kill the survivors in case other drug dealers come from hundreds of miles away to retrieve the cocaine out the water. Oh yeah, better do that, because that's something that would definitely happen. What a time to be alive. It's the military commander, fucking admiral, fucking going up in front of their parliament, Congress, and going, yeah, well, you know, those drug dealers, they can smell it, you know, hundreds of miles away, like attack dogs, like a fucking lot of sharks, but it's cocaine. They can smell the cocaine. What the fucking fuck? What the fucking fuck? And yet 77 million Americans and a shitload of fucking British people are like, drug dealing bad, drug dealing in the water, drug dealing dead. Fucking hell. Any bands, drug dealers can smell coke in the water, they go into a coke frenzy. Yeah. Like piranhas. They're exactly like piranhas. Well, you see, pedophiles have more DNA in common with crabs than they do with other people, you know, like normal people like you and me. There's no actual evidence for it, but it is a scientific fact. Yeah. Wouldn't it be adorable if Musk, Trump, and all their high-level monsters went for a trip to Mars, says Blue Badger. But they accidentally put in Mercury due to autocorrect and trusted AI to pilot it. Yes, that would be awesome. That would be amazing. Off to Mercury with you, you bastard. Or maybe they could put Mercury in as the propellant for the second stage of the rocket once they're up in the air. Quick, press the button to go to the second stage of the fuel. Oh, it's Mercury, and Mercury doesn't burn very well. Oh well, down we go. Graham, they've always been this moronic. It's just off the charts, though, isn't it? Hey, I come to my attention that what is this? What even is this? Why is it doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me, you bastard? It's giving me subscribers only mode. Why is it doing this? Right, just give me 1 second, because I can't actually set a target. And I think it's because I might still be signed in as Tan from yesterday. Let me just try to type in YouTube, and I put in OU instead of U, and it came up with the Open University. Yeah, I'm still signed in as Tan. That'll be why. Switch accounts. I am going out. I'm getting paranoid now. I am going out on the Politics Social channel, right? I am. Yeah. Not fucking that up. Okay, good. Okay, let's see if we can get some help with the old chat here. So I go to live, signed in as me. Thank you. Double tap, double war crime. And yeah, let's see if we can do this. Come on, you bastard. Pop out chat. At least I know now why the chat was being weird and giving me that message at the bottom. Hey, I can set a goal now. Just give me one moment while I just update the chat window here to the right of me. Aha. There you are. Yes, you are, says Diz. Diz, don't fuck with me, Diz. Diz, please. I don't need this this early on a Monday morning. So when everyone goes, you might. I reckon one day you lot are going to all get together on Discord before the show, and you'll be like, let's tell Graham that his mic's not working. And everyone's like, we can't hear you. We can't. And it's like all my messages are like, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. And then it turns out you were all just joking. It was just a jolly jape. Yeah. Anyway, very expensive government-funded fireworks, indeed. Oh my God, me and Diz told you to change the stream key on Saturday, Graham. Yeah, the stream key has been changed. That's why this is going out on Politics Social. That's fine, but that's separate because that means that OBS is signed in to my account on YouTube. But for the chat here, I wasn't signed in as me. I was signed in as Tansky. No good deed goes unpunished. Anyway, right, for your insolence, I'm going to put, what are we up to? Oh, God, I'll put a 1 hour timer. I don't think I'm going to yak on that long. But let's get some super chats in going, hey. And I'll wrap up soon about talking about this bloody double tap bullshit. All right, let's get some confetti in the house if anyone wants to help with that. Okay, so where were we? The fucking cocaine, the cocaine hazard. There's cocaine in the water, and then the precedent of the U-852 Pellis incident, where a German captain in 1944 ordered his crew to fire on shipwrecked survivors to prevent them reporting the U-boat's presence. After the war, the captain, the XO, and the ship's doctor were tried for war crimes, sentenced to death, and shot. You don't kill survivors. And Martin Harrow says, see, incompetence does pay. Thank you very much for the first super chat of the week. Woohoo! It must be Christmas. You can tell it's Christmas because Bok the Badger has got a little Christmas hat on. So yes, thank you very much to Martin Harrow for kicking us off. Although I don't think that registered. Oh my God. What? Why didn't that register? What is even happening right now? Fuck my life. Anyway, so look, this happened on the 2nd of September. It didn't come out till last month, right? It didn't come out till November. But then the stories kept on changing. So I'll go through some of the things that have changed. So Trump and Hegseth, they initially denied this. They weren't questioned about whether a second strike on wounded men would be legal. Trump claimed that he didn't know if it happened. And Hegseth told him that it didn't and insisted that he wouldn't have wanted a second strike. And Hegseth claimed he saw no survivors and blamed the fog of war. Hegseth, famously an alcoholic and an abuser. And a rapist, a man who literally rapes women. He rapes women and gets away with it because he's rich and well-connected. And if you're rich and well-connected, you can literally get away with fucking murder by the looks of things. So this is what Hegseth demanded. He blamed, later on, Hegseth said he saw no survivors and blamed the fog of war. Apparently the fog of war, the smoke coming from the boat was the fog of war. The smoke which they could see through because they had infrared imaging. So whatever. And then we had Caroline Leavitt's later admission on the 1st of December. She said, this is the White House spokeswoman, the fucking lunatic who's married to a 61-year-old man. What's like, what, you know, they make fun of men, don't they? They make fun of men for going out with older women because it's like, or even going out with younger women. Say, they can't get someone their own age, can they? So they go after. Yeah. Is that what it's like for her? I don't know. Like, what? No one in their 20s want to go out with this woman because she's fucking horrific. Perhaps, I don't know. Anyway, she conceded that there was a second strike and that Admiral Bradley gave the order, while still claiming it complied with the law of armed conflict, which pretty much shown that it doesn't. And then we have the navigation hazard covered story. This is JSOC briefing materials to the White House, claiming the second strike was to sink the remaining wreckage, so it wouldn't be a navigation hazard. A justification repeated to members of Congress behind closed doors. Okay. There were people hanging on to it. They knew there were 2 people hanging on to the wreckage, right? So even if you're going to go down that route and say, oh, it was a navigation hazard, which it wasn't, but even if you're going to say that, you pick the people up out the water and then you blow up the navigation hazard. That's the way you do it. That would be legal. That would be a legal thing to do. Veg Pie, £2 super chat towards the Covfefe. Thank you. It's on £10 to turn the number. No, it's not. It's not. It shouldn't be. It should not be. It shouldn't be. No, because Veg Pie just put £2 in and it went up to 1. It should be any colour. Any colour. 20-year-old hit on me. I'm like, no, says L. I mean, generally speaking, I don't have a huge problem with age gap relationships. If they work, they work, you know. But it is interesting. Like, if it was a 29-year-old man and his wife was 61 years old, you can imagine what all the fucking Tates and the incels and all the fucking weirdos will be saying about that, eh? They've had enough of a go against President Macron in France because his wife is a little bit older than him. You know. And Viper Scott, thank you very much. And says, oh, I stand corrected to Diz. Confetti. Thank you very much, Alistair. You can throw £10 in if you want, you know. No one's stopping you. Anyway, so we had Trump and Hegseth's denials to start with. Then we had Caroline Leavitt's slate of admission. Then we had this navigation hazard cover story, which is bullshit. Then we had the drug cartel radio story. Defense officials told at least one congressional briefing in September that the survivors were using radios to summon to help recover the cocaine. Like, can you imagine? You're in a boat, right, that has just been blown up by the US forces, by this drone strike, right? And this is a boat with 4 big fuck-off outboard motors on it, right? And they're blown up, and all the petrol on board is blown up. There's a good chance that you have second-degree burns, right? First-degree burns. I mean, you're fucked, right? And you're just about clinging on to life, and you're just about clinging on to the wreckage of the boat that you were on. And your first thought is to get on the radio. Hedgehogs, calling all hedgehogs. And go, there's cocaine. You need to come and rescue the cocaine. Don't worry about me. It's more important you get the cocaine. Just get it. Like what? What? I mean, surely they'll want to be rescued. Surely anyone would be like, no. You know, who would be? Oh no, we've got to save the cocaine. We've got to save the cocaine. What about the beautiful cocaine? You know, I can die as long as the cocaine lives. As long as those rich, privileged, entitled little shits get their cocaine. It's the only thing I live for, and I'm prepared now to die for. Get them their cocaine because they need to be even bigger twats than they already are. That's very noble of you, possible drug smuggler, clinging onto the wreckage. The fiery wreckage of a boat after you just suffered first-degree burns. You've had your ear fucking drums blown out by the sound of the explosion. You know. I'm on the radio. Who you say? I'm telling the drug dealers to come get their cocaine. Oh, okay. How do you know? What did they say? I don't know. I can't hear anything. In fact, I can't even hear you talking to me. Gotta do some fucking American Sign Language so I can understand what you're saying. These are the excuses that a 12-year-old child would make up when they are caught doing something naughty and they go, oh, the dog did it. And you're like, really? The dog did it, little Jimmy. The dog smashed all the windows in the school. Right, okay. Yeah, it was the dog. Dog came and did it. Bigger boys came. They were big. They got you on CCTV, Jimmy, smashing all the windows of the school. That's not me. It's my evil twin brother. Your evil twin brother. Yeah? Happens all the time. Evil twin. Every time. These are the excuses made up by fucking idiots. By children. And these are the people in charge of the US military. These are in charge of nuclear weapons right now. Nuclear weapons. And let's not forget, Trump once wanted to nuke a storm, nuke a hurricane to try and send it off in a different direction or something. I don't know. I don't know. He was talked down from that by the people around him at the time, but those people around him aren't there anymore. And that's why the CDC is saying, hey, why not just give your kid hepatitis B? It's fun. It's awesome. It is. It's excellent. So yeah, fucking... So they said they'd be using radios to summon help to recover the cocaine, and this story was repeated by anonymous officials to several news media outlets. Now, and this is now contradicted by Bradley's own acknowledgement that they had no comms gear. But even if they did, could you imagine? We'll tell them. We'll tell them they were trying to get their mates to come and rescue the cocaine, not rescue themselves, not rescue themselves out of the water. Don't you think that would be more important? No, they're trying to rescue the cocaine. And then you've got the split reactions in Congress after the video screens. Like Jim Haynes, the House Intel ranking member, said the survivors posed no further threat and described the video as looking like an attack on shipwrecked sailors. And Tom Cotton said he saw two survivors trying to flip the boat loaded with drugs back over so they could stay in the fight. That is a direct quote by Tom Cotton. And Rand Paul warned that the public release of this information will cause outrage. Really? So let's talk about Article 3 of the Geneva Convention, shall we? Article 3 applies to non-international armed conflicts and requires humane treatment for all persons not actively taking part in hostilities, including those out of action due to wounds or shipwreck. That's actually stated, wounds or shipwreck. It explicitly forbids violence to life, including murder and executions without proper trial. The second Geneva Convention, Article 12, says, brackets, sea warfare, says, wounded, sick, and shipwrecked persons shall be respected and protected in all circumstances, and defines shipwrecked broadly as any cause, including aircraft forced down at sea, attacks or violence against them are strictly prohibited. The DoD Law of War Manual gives protections. The DoD's own manual section on non-international armed conflict states that all wounded, sick, and shipwrecked, they use the word shipwrecked again, whether or not they have fought, must be respected, protected, not attacked, and must receive medical care. It also obliges the military to search for, collect, and protect such persons as quickly as possible. There was a British guy called Noel Gervais. People in Liverpool may know this name. He was a doctor in World War I. He went out onto no man's land to give the wounded aid. And under his own obligations, he also gave medical treatment to German soldiers in no man's land, as well as British soldiers. He's one of the few people, if only people, to ever receive not one, but 2 Victoria Crosses. He put his own life on the line so many times to go and help people. But he didn't just help our side because he realized that when someone was out of action on the other side, the right thing to do was to give them medical aid. And that was over 100 years ago. So you're telling me that the people fighting in the trenches in World War I had a better grip of what was correct procedure during a war operation, an actual war, not a fake, phony, made-up war like this is, than they do now. Than the Americans seem to understand. So even in the DoD, the Department of War now, but the Department of Defense, in the Law of War Manual, it says that it obliges the military to search for, collect, and protect shipwrecked persons as quickly as possible. Not just sit there for 41 minutes deciding whether they're going to kill them or not. And the explicit prohibition of the no quarter orders, right? This is section 17.6.1 of the DoD manual, bans orders that there be no survivors or to give no quarter, as the military parlance was at the time. Legal experts interpret Hegseth's reported kill everyone order as exactly this sort of unlawful directive. And then you've got the section on clearly illegal orders. The DoD manual, this is 18.3.2.1 in the manual. It gives a specific example in the manual of an order to fire on shipwrecked survivors as an order that subordinates must, by law, refuse, making it impossible to argue ignorance by anyone in the chain of command. This is the example they give. This is the very example they give of an unlawful order. So they say you must not follow unlawful orders. We'll get to that in a moment. But also, here's an example of an unlawful order, and the example they give in the fucking law book, in their guidebook, in the book that they are given, that they have to read through in order to rise through the ranks of the military. The exact example they are given in that book is something that they carried out. They shot, they killed, they blew up survivors of a shipwreck. And I don't care how bad they were. I don't care if they were serial killers. I don't care if they were, horrible, horrible human beings. They still deserve due process. They still deserve their day in court. But no, that would be awkward for the Americans, because if they had picked them up, and this is why they killed them, if they had picked them up and they turned out to just be some fishermen, or they turned out to be some, I don't know, they were just on a pleasure cruise, or they were being trafficked as humans and there were no drugs on board, I don't know, they didn't collect the evidence, did they? They didn't find any heroin, any cocaine on board this boat, because they blew it up twice. And then Jack Goldsmith, who's a conservative Harvard law professor and former head of the OLC under George W. Bush, says there is no conceivable legal justification for the acts described in the Washington Post. Lawyers across the CIA, the ODNI, the Justice Department, State Department, Defense Department, and the NSC originally agreed that the boat bombings were illegal before being sidelined. And then you got the JAGs working group statement, a group of former judge advocate generals, military lawyers, who issues a statement saying that anyone who issues or obeys such orders can and should be prosecuted, and described the strike on the survivors as a war crime, murder, or both, with no other legal category available. So there is a duty to disobey illegal orders. And this is a standard rule, lawful orders only. Under military law, service members are obliged to follow lawful orders and cannot be punished for refusing orders that they know, or any reasonable person should know, are clearly unlawful, with the manual explicitly listing firing on shipwrecked survivors as clearly unlawful. And the DoD manual clearly states this as an example. And it says that if an order is clearly illegal, or the subordinate knows it's illegal, and they must refuse, by law, they must refuse, because the manual uses this exact scenario. It's hard for anyone to claim otherwise. The DOJ said we said it was lawful. They decided themselves it was lawful, right? The problem is that at the time that the law orders were, that this crime was committed, that they had not decided that it was lawful. It was 3 days later that they decided that it was that it was lawful. But then you've got the OLC magic trick, right? Which is the after the Bush torture memos, Obama's Attorney General Eric Holder argued he couldn't prosecute those involved in torture because they relied in good faith on the OLC saying it was legal. It was legal. This established a practice where the OLC memo is treated as a get-out-of-jail card for officials, but it's weaker here because in the boat strike case, the blessing only came 3 days afterwards. They said it was legal 3 days after what they did. So they couldn't say, oh, we looked at it and we got the information from the OLC saying it was okay. They clearly didn't. And even if a prosecutor somehow overcame the OLC and brought charges, The problem is, in all this, that Trump has a track record of pardoning alleged or convicted war criminals. Clint Lawrence, Matthew Goldstein, and restoring Edward Gallagher's rank. So there's reasons to believe these are people who have been done for war crimes, murdering Afghan civilians. There is every reason to believe he would pardon those responsible for this double tap. And then the fact that the rather than being facing consequences, Admiral Bradley, the guy who carried out this illegal order, has been promoted, by the way, to Special Operations Command. So following or giving such orders is rewarded, not punished, obviously. And then you've got the intelligence backlash when you had people like Senator Mark Kelly, decorated war veteran astronaut. He noted that allies like the UK have stopped sharing certain narcotics-related intelligence with the US in the Caribbean because they fear it will be used to commit further extrajudicial killings. So probably more drugs are getting through to America as a result of what's happening here. And then you've got congressional investigations that are going on, and at least in one later boat strike, 2 survivors were recovered. So since September the 2nd, and they were handed to their home state for prosecutions under normal criminal law, suggesting that the military has partially shifted its approach, implicitly acknowledging problems with the original kill everyone posture. By the way, Mark Kelly has been attacked by Donald Trump. So after Mark Kelly did an ad with sort of other military vets and senators saying that saying what it says in the Department of Defense military law of war manual, saying you must not follow illegal orders. You have a duty to say no. Trump responded by saying that Mark Kelly, decorated war veteran astronaut, should be put to death for saying this, for telling people this. Should be put to death. He should be hanged for sedition, he said. But what this says about Trump's America is very, very telling, isn't it? Like the boat strikes show a progression from legal objections and safeguards to that deliberate removal to these post hoc justifications to an explicit culture where kill everyone and no quarter are treated as acceptable. This is the increasing violent mentality of the Trump administration. The fact that they're going after people in the water for doing nothing wrong that we know of, extrajudicial killings, but then also what they're doing, rounding up people who are not white and using ICE to round them up, masked vigilantes, some of whom were involved in the January the 6th terrorist attack on the Congress building, on the Capitol building in America. These terrorists are now terrorizing American citizens and people who have residency in America for the crime of being brown or black, which over the summer was made legal by the Supreme Court in America. And when I say America is fucked beyond all recognition, it is absolutely foobarred. I really mean it. Like I can't see a way back. This is gonna take years. This is gonna take absolute fucking years to sort out. That we had the war on drugs, and then we had the fucking global war on terror. Strike the main target, then hunt what they call squirters, I think, running from the blast. But this is people in the water that for years, for decades, under the Geneva Conventions and under US military law and under law of countries all around the world, anyone who is in a shipwreck is seen as someone who's a non-combatant at that point. And this is a case of whether the president can order extrajudicial killings in someone else's waters, in someone else's territory, gut the legal checks and then pardon anyone who gets caught. This is, again, going back to something I mentioned a bunch of times on this channel. It's just the US president has too much power. And I hope that whatever remains after the carnage of these years of Trump being the president of the United States, it is a better system in America where no future president is given that much power. But we will have to see. We will have to see. Okay, so I'm going to head over to the papers now, if you don't mind. Thomas Bell, missing the end of his name, says L. Indeed. Less trolls than Tan's stream now. Fewer, Martin. Fewer trolls. Anyway, we're going to head over to the mirror here. Ging is king of Ginge. Is king of the... I don't know who he is. But he's won. I'm a celebrity. Get me out of here. Is he a celebrity? I don't know. I hate his haircut. Winning formula. There's Lando Norris there, squeezing one out after winning the Formula One Grand Prix Championship for 2025. And there's his girlfriend there having a bit of a cry. And then we have Now Make Him Sir Kev. This is about the MND fund for motor neuron disease. And they've raised 11.3 million in memory of his late pal Rob Burrow, and one of his rugby pals who unfortunately passed away from MND. And there is we need to look into it. Sorry, this animation's going off here. We need to look into this more, but there may be a link between elite sports and MND, and they reckon it might be something to do with either impact, especially in the case of rugby, but also perhaps the brain being starved of oxygen because top athletes, their hearts beat slower or something. I don't know. There's lots of research to be done, but hopefully this money will help that research. And then we've got a very low resolution picture here. The star is incredibly low resolution. And we've got this guy who looks like, I don't know, Manic Miner, saying, "Don't panic, it's not Harry." Very good. And then we've got Lando Norris there on front cover of the Daily Telegraph. Oh my God, someone needs to draw a big magenta cock on that picture, don't they? It's just screaming out for it. If I picked up that paper and I had a fucking Sharpie marker, that would be exactly what I did. But there you go. How to pick the best fringe for your face. Okay, look. I know some people like fringes. They really like fringes. In America, I think they call them bangs, whatever, right? I don't like fringes. All right, just so you know. Just if you're trying to impress me, don't give yourself a fringe. And hit and run tourists are ruining the Cotswolds. Yeah. Right-wingers branded danger to children, safeguarding concerns being used to silence people with patriotic views. Yeah. I would be worried leaving kids with a bunch of people who think that it's right to just blow up a boat full of innocent people, because you're innocent until proven guilty, aren't you? Isn't it funny how all of these right-wing twats, right? They always do this, don't they? Whenever one of their twats gets done for child abuse or for raping a woman, they go, "Oh, innocent until proven guilty. Innocent until proven guilty. Innocent." And then you go, "Well, what about these guys in this boat? Oh, they were guilty. They deserve to die." Oh, are they not innocent until proven guilty? What about these people coming across in small boats to the UK? Oh, guilty. They're all criminals. Guilty. Criminals. La, la, la. I can't hear you. But when it's one of them getting done for abusing a child, it's like, well, there's two sides to it. It's a bit he said, she said, isn't it? Funny that. I'm across the board on this. Like, if it appears that you've done something and you've got loads of money and everyone says you did this thing, and it's like, well, why didn't they come out earlier? Why didn't they say earlier? Because the person's got loads of money. It can ruin your career, ruin your life. You can send hitmen round to your house to, burn it down with you inside it. I mean, what the fuck? What are they even thinking? Powerful men. And then finally, a lot of people stand up and say, "Hey, I think this guy's a fucking wrong one," and they get away with it because they're rich and powerful. And you're like, "Oh well, that's done." Yeah. All right, mate. Anyway, but it's always us that's the danger. Yeah, Kirsty. Obviously, trans people, as J.K. Rowling said last year or inferred last year, or maybe the year before now, she wrote a tweet saying, "We've got to stop regarding certain minorities as innocent." What? What did you just say? Well, just certain minorities. Any minorities you want to just pick out in general, Joanne? Any that you want to say? Any that you want to, or should I say Robert? Any particular minorities there? Just any minority. So you just need to stop presuming innocence of black people, eh? Or Asians. Let's stop presuming people from China. We can't be giving them fucking the benefit of the doubt under law. No, we can't be doing that. No innocent until proven guilty for them. Say to the jury in a trial of someone who's from South America, just say, well, they're obviously guilty because they're from South America. I don't even know why we're bothering having a jury here. And the jury will go, yeah, that's a very good point. Guilty. We don't even need to hear the arguments for or against. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Because we need to stop presuming innocence of certain minorities. Which minorities do you mean, JK? How about billionaires? They're a minority. Let's stop presuming innocence of billionaires. Why don't we put all them in jail? There's some boats I wouldn't mind fucking sinking. Anyway, loophole gives grooming gangs easy access to children. Grooming gangs that are overwhelmingly run by right-wing people. Don't forget, the majority of criminals in this country voted for Brexit if they could. The people in jail now for crimes that they've committed since Brexit, who could vote in the Brexit referendum, ask them which way they voted. Most people in universities voted to remain. Most people in prisons voted to leave. Or in and out of prison. Someone who's, obviously I don't think you can vote. You could vote for it while you're in jail, but whatever. It's funny that, isn't it? Saz, thank you very much, Saz, for the £2 super chat. Very kind of you. Trump is an odious lump of cat plop, says Plum. You're absolutely right. Yep, especially Nicola Murray. What? Fat Spicer says, I'd rather not, but my other half and I are visiting a family in Dominican Republic. No longer direct flights from the UK where we need to go. Also, what will Trump make of visiting Haitians during the World Cup? Well, he's not going to allow them, is he? Honestly, as someone who's a little bit bold when it comes to going places around the world, as someone who went into Iraq and went into Afghanistan and went into Congo with nothing but my backpack and my Scouse charm to protect me, I wouldn't go to America. Would not go to America right now for all the gold in China. Would not go. Because I am not having them go through my phone and read the last 8 years of private messages between me and my girlfriend. I'm not having that. They can't read them. They can't. I'm not going to America and giving them the opportunity to read all those messages because they're for me and my girlfriend. They're private messages. But the fact that so many tourists are thinking, I don't care about my own privacy. Yeah, here you go. Here's my phone. Just have a look at all my messages in it. No, here's my thumbprint. Here's my facial scan. Here's my code to type in. Yeah, go through it. If you don't give them the code, they'll fucking take the phone off you, smash it up, and fucking throw you in jail. I have a friend, right, who was in America many, many moons ago, right? Like 20 years ago. And at the time, he was pulled over and he had a small amount of cannabis in his glove box of the car. And he wasn't an American national. He's not from America. And they said, you're in trouble over this. And, we'll do something about it at some point. Anyway, he left America soon afterwards, as you would. And like 20 years later, literally 20 years later, he went back and he was at the airport and it came up on the system that he had this outstanding drugs arrest. And he was locked up. He was locked up. He was detained, right? You know the way they detain you until you can stand trial, right? He was detained for 6 months in a jail. He was held in a jail, not like a high security prison or nothing, but he was detained for 6 months of his life. Yeah, don't go to America. That was before Trump got in. That was years ago. Mate, don't go to America. Just don't go. It's not worth it. It's a shit country anyway. It's a really shit country. All the places that they say are fucking amazing. There's somewhere else in the world that is more amazing. Like Niagara Falls. Okay, yeah. It's a thing. It looks better from the Canada side. So if you are going to go and see it, go the Canada side because they've got the Horseshoe Falls. The Bridal Veil Falls or whatever the fuck it's called is on the American side, but it's a bit shit. It's small. But I've been to Foz do Iguaçu on the border between Brazil and Argentina. And that's featured in the movie The Mission, where he goes over the waterfall on the cross, whatever. That is like 10 times bigger than Niagara Falls and 10 times better. There were taller buildings in other countries. There were better places. There were that if you want to go to an Art Deco capital, don't go to fucking Miami. They've torn down a lot of the nice Art Deco stuff and put up, fucking boxes. They put up glass boxes. No, go to a place called Napier in New Zealand. It's much better, much better. Give me anything that is better in America. There's better desert. There's a better desert in the Sahara Desert, which is closer. Go to the fucking Sahara. You want a desert? Go to the Sahara Desert. You don't need to go to Death Valley in America. You can go to fucking Timbuktu in Mali. Any example that you can give of something that is really cool in America, I'm going to tell you somewhere else where I think it's cooler. End of. And fucking of. The Victoria Falls in Botswana. That's better. That's fucking better. What is it? Botswana, Namibia. Not Namibia. Yeah, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and the other one. It's like 4 countries, isn't it? Maybe it's 3 countries. Maybe I'm going a bit too far. Yeah, I think I am. At least 3 countries come together at Victoria Falls. I mean, even that's better than Niagara. And you get to go to Botswana, which is one of the coolest countries in the world. It's very hot, but it's very cool. And a really good example of a functioning African economy and democracy, which no one ever gives. It was like, oh, Africa and all these countries are so fucked. And like, well, actually, they're not. There's a lot of people who live in these places who live very kind of nice middle-class lives, Zimbabwe, the Grand Canyon, though. There must be a better canyon. Kings Canyon, near Alice Springs in Australia is better, and I'll tell you why. Because the peeps from Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, they climbed up to the top of Kings Canyon so they could stand there in all their glory for a lovely helicopter shot. Great days. Oh no, they've torn down a lot of the Art Deco district on Miami Beach. I've always wanted to go back and see it again. No, I think that they're still there because they're protected, but you never know. I mean, Trump's pulled down half the White House and they don't care, do they? We have Cheddar George. Good old Cheddar George. He's always there telling this cheddar, hey lad, do you want to buy some cheese? Cheddar Gorge. Yes, we do. Indeed. I don't think they've knocked those down, but I'm saying there's more like Napier in New Zealand. They have an Art Deco festival and people drive around in like 1920s style cars and stuff and dress up in 1920s costumes. It's nothing like Miami. It's nothing like Miami. Got ticketed for jaywalking in Bakersfield, California. Still haven't paid it. Yeah, Simon. I mean, jaywalk. How is that? How is that a law? How is that a law, mate? Like, that is just bonkers, isn't it? Anyway, we've got 20 minutes to get 7. Oh, I should have set to 5, shouldn't I? I've got 7 super chats, so we're not getting any confetti. So, bear that in mind. So anyway, Driven to Win. There's Lando Norris there, looking like something's being shoved up his bottom. And it looks quite painful, poor guy. And then down here we've got inheritance tax raid will hurt family farm. Inheritance tax raid. Just look at the language of that headline there. Inheritance tax raid. It's not a raid. It's making it fairer because people who are very wealthy bought loads of land so they didn't have to pay tax, or the kids didn't have to pay tax when they carked it and passed the land on to their kids. It was the most efficient way of multimillionaires passing money on to their kids without having to pay any tax on that. So they sewed up this loophole, and still, you only have to pay 20%. You don't have to pay 40%. It's only half, but it's a raid. It's a raid. And if you moan about it, it's that politics of envy. That's what it is. It's that politics of envy. And then we'll, Alistair, thank you. For the 4th super chat of the morning. I like that. Oh, it's actually the 5th, but the first one didn't register on the counter. So if we get up to 9, I will release confetti on my screen at least. Just give me a moment. I'm getting rid of an advert for Vista Print. Duchess phones the Philippines for father. This is about the Meghan and her estranged father. Oh, another super chat from Viper Scott. Thank you They got 5 now. And then we've got Rayna will rejoin cabinet, says Starmer, which is really good news when she's done her penance for filling out a form wrong when it came to buying a house. And then Russia. Martin, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Since the first didn't count. Oh, thank you. And Viper Scott has dropped another £1 in. Thank you. We're up to 7 already. Oh, thank you. That's very kind. That is very kind of you. I realised that the chat window has the weird sign into the chat thing at the bottom of it, and that's because I wasn't signed in when I got that up. Anyway, thank you very much. Russia gains ground ahead of London talks is the next thing. Russia is gaining territory in Ukraine at one of the fastest rates since the war began. New data shows, I think that should be, ahead of an emergency Downing Street summit or something. Data, I suppose, new data show. I mean, data is a plural because a single is datum, isn't it? Don't know how I feel about that. Yeah, but I mean, it's not saying much. They've taken like an inch of land in 3 years. I mean, what is it? Day 1,264 of the fucking special operation. And then we've got Miss Paula Thomas with a super chat there. There are waterfalls in Wales that are higher than Niagara, e.g. Pistol Radar. I don't know how to pronounce that, but thank you very much, Miss Paula Thomas. That's very kind of you. We've also got 2 more super chats from Viper Scott, so we're going to go straight to the confetti. Yes! We got the confetti, and the confetti was good. Woo! Yes! Thank you to everyone who chipped in. So we got confetti. Diz is very happy now. Thank you for making Diz's day. The next story here is North Sea ships to drill Falklands' first oil well. The Falkland Islands is set to open its first major oil field using a North Sea drilling ship, with hopes of unlocking a windfall equivalent to £1 million per islander. Do you reckon they're going to get any money? No, I don't think. We didn't get any money from our fucking North Sea oil. Jesus Christ. And then we've got Stokes, dressing room, no place for weak men. Ben Stokes has warned his team that the England dressing room is no place for weak men and accused them of wilting under pressure of ashes in the cricket. So there you go, Ben Stokes. We will have no weak men in the cricket team because cricket is a very masculine sport where you dress up in cricket whites and stand around hoping for a ball to come your way so you can grab it. Anyway, so we're going to head on now to the we're going to change with the times. I'm going to change to the times. Just give me a moment because I'm sure an advert will pop up in a moment, but whatever. Atherton's verdict on a new low for England. This is the story about the cricket. 2 days now into the 5-day test, the Ashes, and England have lost both absolutely abysmally. Labour group that helped PM to power starts to hunt for the successor. And an influential think tank that ran Sir Keir Starmer's leadership campaign is canvassing party members on candidates to replace him. Andy Burnham. Give us some Andy Burnham. Then we've got state will encourage all staff to join union. Compulsory advice in workers' right package. Every employer in Britain will be required to hand staff pro-union messaging written by Whitehall in a proposed overhaul of workers' rights. Fucking fantastic. We need unions back because we need more protection for people against the shit that they have to put up with as a result of these companies running literally everything and running everything into the ground like the bastards that they are. These big companies like Starbucks and Amazon and stuff, yeah, they operate union busting measures to make sure none of their people working for them join a union. And then the uptake in America of unions is very small, and a lot of unions had a lot of power taken from them by Thatcher in the 1980s and subsequent Tory politicians who make it very difficult. For instance, right, if if you're a Russian and you want to influence who our prime minister is, you can sign up as a conservative overseas friend of the conservatives or something, right? And you get to vote on the leader of the Conservative Party, and you can make it someone as useless as Liz Truss. You can make Liz Truss the leader of our country, not just of the Conservative Party. If they're in power, whoever becomes leader of the Conservative Party becomes. So there was an electronic voting system where people went online from anywhere in the world, maybe used a VPN to pretend they were from the UK, and they got to vote on who our prime minister was. Remember that? That was fun, right? And we ended up with Liz Truss. Right. Wow. And but meanwhile, if you are part of a union and you want to go on strike, and you need 50% of all union members, not the people who vote, but all union members, right? So imagine if it was the Conservatives for that Conservative membership. So if it was a percentage of all members, not just the people who voted, it was all members. Or you had an election here, and it was an election, and it was based on all the people who voted and all the people who didn't vote. And if the percentage of people who vote is below a certain level, then that election is null and void, right? That's what they have. So first of all, you got to have over 50% of your union to vote for strike action. Secondly, it's got to be 50% of all the people in the union. All the people in the union, whether they vote or not. If they don't vote, then it's taken as a no vote, essentially. And then you've got, or half no vote or something. And then you've got the third thing, which is absolutely fucking troppo bonkers bananas, right? This is something that we have taken from American gun law in America, that you can't vote online. You can't vote online. You have to receive a ballot in the post from your union. You need to fill it out and send it back to the union, which costs the unions millions every year in postal costs. And obviously it makes it much more difficult to get enough people to say we're going to go on strike in any given union, especially the big ones. And they've done this on purpose to make it so that it's very, very difficult for unions to go on strike. And it's why workers' wages have been suppressed. It's why, based on the Fredo index, the minimum wage should be £17.50 an hour now, based on what it was in 2005. Minimum wage in 2005 could buy you 30 Fredos. Now it can buy you what? Fucking 17 or something. Yeah. Trust stroke Sunak unvoted in public. So in theory, they could have had Stephen Fry run for PM, win, then booted out, replaced by someone like Frog. Yeah, that's very true. Ms. Paula Thomas, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. That rule should have applied to the Brexit referendum. Yeah? Yeah? And it wouldn't have gone through because only 27% of the population voted for it. A quarter of the population voted for Brexit. And no one born this century voted for it. Nobody born this century voted for Brexit. And here we are. Here we fucking are. So, and then we got Lando Norris there giving his girlfriend, Margarita, a big smooch after winning the... well, he didn't actually win. He didn't win the race yesterday. He came third. Max Verstappen won, the Dutch fella. He won, and he won the race, but he didn't. He won the battle, but he didn't win the war because it's based on points through the season. So it's a bit like at football. In the last game of the season, you might lose your last game. Or it might be a draw. But if you're enough points ahead, then you still win the league. Bit like that. Lax Londoners pose deadly risk on rural roads. Country folk have a new reason to hate Londoners. Drivers from the capital are significantly more likely than the general public to be involved in collisions on rural roads. Guys, listen, come here, right? Don't care where they're from. Can we sort this out so that children, do not die on country roads, right? Can we get the speed limit on country roads brought down to 30? 20 in some circumstances. If you cannot see the road 100 meters ahead of you, then it should be 20 miles an hour. It should not, under any fucking circumstances whatsoever, be 60 miles an hour to go down a single track road with high raised hedges on either side. That's all wiggly and going left and right and up and down like they have here in Durham. It should not be 60 miles an hour by any fucking force of imagination. It's so dangerous, and yet that is the speed. That is the speed that you are allowed to go at, and a lot of people don't see that as a limit. They see it as a target. Sort that out, and then you'll see the number of collisions on these country roads go right down. People who are unfamiliar with the roads will not be driving too fast along them because they'll get a speeding ticket. People don't like speeding tickets because it costs money and it's hassle and blah, 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 blah. So there you go. That's lax Londoners pose risks. He said risks. And then this Daily Mail article here, which is follow my guide to look as good as I do at 64. This is by Ruby Hammer. And do you know what the guide is? Do you know what the guide is to look good when you're older? Don't be white. That's the guide. That's my guide anyway. So if you are white, sorry. Okay, so now we're going to go to public no longer trusts NHS data over dementia care. Damning poll finds only 1 in 4 confident they will receive good treatment from the health service if diagnosed. Well, yeah, that's because the Tories absolutely pulled the arse out of any kind of care, palliative care, to do with dementia. They said, if you get cancer, we'll look after you. If you got dementia, well, we'll charge you £2,000 a week to live in this fucking residential home where you may or may not get looked after. But, you know, there'll be some shareholders to make a fuckload of money out of it. So that's good. And then we've got the NHS. The public do not trust the NHS to cope with the dementia crisis, a damning survey reveals. It's sad, but here's the reality of it. We have got rid of smallpox. We could have got rid of measles, but we decided to bring it back for some reason. We've got rid of so many diseases that people used to die of. People used to die of AIDS. People don't really die of AIDS anymore. If they can get their retroviral drugs, they can stay alive for many years. Fewer people are dying from being murdered. Fewer people are dying in car accidents. Fewer people are dying of, a broken heart. I don't know. But it's, across the board, the figures for people dying before their time is going down, which means that people are living until the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And yeah, because they haven't died of something else, it's going to be cancer or it's going to be Alzheimer's or dementia. That's going to grab you in the end. Statistically, 1 in 2 of us is going to get cancer at some point in our lives, some form of cancer, which is horrifying and understandable why we're all so fucking scared of it, because it's a horrible, horrible disease and it affects millions of people, and there'll be nobody watching this that hasn't been touched by cancer in some way in terms of having it themselves or a family member, someone that they love, being struck down with it or getting it or having to deal with it. So yeah, this is sort of the inevitable consequence of two things: of people not dying of other stuff and the lack of research into this. And you think, oh, they must be doing loads of research into Alzheimer's. They must be doing loads of research into cancer. Well, they are, but not as much as they could be doing if it wasn't for the right-wing Republican fuck pigs. Because in America, for instance, they were having really good results coming from experimenting on stem cells, which were taken from aborted fetuses. They were using the stem cells from the aborted fetuses to try and find ways of growing new brain cells, new ways of helping against Alzheimer's, helping against dementia, and Parkinson's disease and Huntington's disease, and these other problems that humans have that we need to be able to find clever ways of sorting out. These administrations in America, these right-wing fuckwit administrations who believe Jesus should control everything. They want Sharia law in America. They want a Christian version of Sharia law, which is what they all kind of want. This is why Saudi Arabia is so keen to invest in America, isn't it? Because they want to export their values to America, and America laps them up. And so they've said, right, no abortions, and if you experiment on a fetus, then you'll go to jail. So people aren't. And America is one of the biggest R&D countries in the world, and yet no one's doing the research that needs to be done on combating stuff like dementia. We could have found some kind of cure for it, or cure for various forms of dementia by now. I'm pretty sure, had these regulations not been brought in America, where they're like, no, you're not allowed to do that. Or they would do a thing where anything that was funded by the government would have to use separate materials, separate instruments, separate separate machines to the ones that that are used for private use, where they could actually experiment on aborted fetuses and things, right? And so you'd have two machines. You'd have like you know when you put they put the test tube in and it spins it around to separate the DNA and all that kind of stuff. Those spinning machines cost $500,000 each, and they have to have two of them, because one of them couldn't be used for anything that had anything to do with possibly working on stem cells. So yeah, it fucks me off in so many ways. These religious fucking zealots, with the control that they have over our lives, that they decide that what they think is moral should be moral for me when it isn't. I don't give a fuck about what they think is true or real or right, because at the end of the day, do they do things that help society? No, they do things that help themselves. They're not praying for the world to be a better place. They're praying for their kid to win the fucking football tournament. You know what I mean? Well, that's worth praying, isn't it? For. Anyway, back to the papers, and the Martin Parr, the photographer, has passed away at the age of 73, I think, and which is sad. And then you've got Patricia Hodge there. I've always liked eccentric people. That is nice, thank you. And then patients at risk as 1 in 7 GP referrals vanish into a black hole. The NHS Watchdog survey suggests many cases are lost or rejected or delayed. 1 in 7 people in England who need hospital care are not receiving it because the referral by their GP gets lost. And going back to what Mike Dix was talking about last week about, the joined up, was it last week or the week before, about the lack of joined up thinking in the NHS. It's all like bubbles that don't really communicate with each other very well. Communication is absolutely key. And when we go on about Labour needing to sort out their comms, I think that the NHS needs to sort out their comms as well, or the government needs to sort out the comms for the NHS. But then again, they can't even sort out their own comms, Labour. So fucking who knows? Who fucking knows? And then a year since Assad's fall in Syria, stalled justice threatens restless Syria. So there you go. Since he's left, and we had the same picture of Lando Norris having a trophy shoved up his arse on the front cover of the paper there on The Guardian, which is nice. He seems to be having fun, I think if you're into that kind of thing. And then we've got Lando Norris looking very cool with his hat on there. Well, champ. Emotional Norris lands his first F1 title. One of the few sports that Britain actually fucking really excels at. Britain's really good at motor racing. So it's got loads of posh kids who can afford to be a motor racer when they're a teenager. Generally, more people are living longer. Fat Spicer, Tories fought to change that. We are now experiencing high prevalence of disease which affect the brain, which are more 90 and 100-year-old brains are still alive. That's true. And Kirsty says, actually, as a cuss type, if I was prevented from entering the ladies, I'd crouch down outside. I used to have a paper hanky for the obvious. Kirsty, a tiny number making a lot of noise. That Lake issue was voted on by local women accept and they accept trans people. GC not happy, gender crits not happy, and taking it to court. I was voted on by women. What are they called now? Women for Women Pond. I don't know. Well, the vitriol against the trans community is just horrific, as we all know. We've been talking about this, and we will continue to talk about this. I just wish there was more that we could do. I really do. I'm hoping maybe that this big concert next year in March in Wembley Arena is going to be a little bit of a turning point where people actually put their head above the parapet. We need a lot more celebrities coming on side for trans people, and we don't need people like Stephen Fry making excuses for the likes of J.K. Rowling. They need to be called out. They need to be called out. J.K. Rowling needs to be told that she is a disgusting, horrific bigot who not only hates trans people but also seems to hate black women as well. Pepper spray attack, chaos at Heathrow. Thousands of travellers face a day of chaos at Heathrow Airport after a pepper spray attack. Jesus Christ. In a multi-storey car park, injured 21 people, including the 3-year-old girl. That is absolutely fucking horrific. Absolutely horrific. 3-year-old getting caught up in a pepper spray attack. Jesus. Right. Next up, we've got The Independent. And we've got Olivia Petter. Olivia Petter is here to tell us that George Clooney is wrong. You can't know your partner if you haven't argued. Should we find out who Olivia Petter is? Should we just type her name in? She's called Olivia, which is probably a bit of a giveaway. Olivia Petter, who are you? Who are you, Elizabeth Petter? Oh, I spilled coffee all over my keyboard yesterday just before I started my show. And the show with Tan, sorry, hair show. And now I've got sticky keys. They're sticking down. Independent talent group. She's written for Sunday Times, Daily Telegraph, British Vogue, Forbes. She's a Forbes contributor. I don't know if she's on the Forbes list. She went to the University of Bristol. Let's type Olivia Petter school. Olivia, anyone who went to private school shouldn't be shocked. Oh, there you go. Wow. As more former pupils come forward with schools of sexual abuse, Olivia Petter explains why private schools can be a breeding ground for sexual misconduct. Anyone who went to private school shouldn't be shocked by the allegations. Rape culture was everywhere. This is from 4 years ago. When I read that top private schools were facing accusations of rape culture, my first thought, it's about time. In the past month, thousands of former female pupils at illustrious schools, including Westminster and Highgate, have made claims of sexual assault at the hands of their male peers, with some alleging that the concerns were dismissed or buried when taken to staff. I loved my school, and I know how privileged I am to have gone there. But in recent years, blah, 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 blah. Okay. All right, so at least she's speaking out, but Olivia Petter gets to tell you that George Clooney is wrong. Do I get to tell you that George Clooney is wrong in a national newspaper? Do you get to tell everyone that George Clooney's talking out of his arse because he's never had an argument with his missus? No, you don't. You don't, because you didn't go to private school. Do you see how it works? Because we've got to go back to the paper now, and I'm going to point out, of course I am, that the other guy on the front page of this newspaper, Lando Norris, also went to private school. Do you see how it works? Do you think I'm mad? Do you think I'm just making this shit up? Do you think I have a chip on my shoulder? Do you think this is the politics of envy? I don't know. I don't give a fuck. I'm just pointing out that every time we see someone having an opinion or being on the front of the newspaper or doing something, anything ever, it's usually someone who went to private school. They absolutely dominate the public sphere. And the rest of us, we don't get a word in edgeways. We don't get to tell our stories. We don't get to tell anyone what happened in our lives. I can't even get a fucking agent in this country, never mind a publishing deal. All the agents that you meet, they all went to private school. All of them. All went to private school together. And they represent their old schoolmates. That's how it works. Fucking grim. Fucking grim. Anyway, Prohibition chief warns service is in perpetual crisis. There is a danger the ailing probation service is being set up to fail. The Chief Inspector Martin Jones tells The Independent as the nation prepares for the biggest justice system overhaul in a generation. The service is in a state of perpetual crisis, according to Martin Jones. Who's Martin Jones? Let's look up Martin Jones. This is fun, isn't it? Martin Jones. There's going to be loads of Martin Jones. Chief Inspector of Probation. There he is. His Majesty's Chief Inspector of Probation for His Majesty's Secret Service. Let's have a look. So he's awarded the CBE for services to victims. That's nice, isn't it? Okay, I don't know if he's a bad guy. He went to Dartford Grammar School. Now, sometimes places are called a grammar school when they're not. Dartford Grammar School. Is it an actual grammar school? Yes, it is. Okay, I let them off. It's a foundation school, but it is a state school, so that's okay. He went to state school. Probably why he's got a good job. That actually requires someone to be competent. Unlike those jobs that they give to people who don't need to be competent, who just, went to the right school. Like Matt Hancock, who killed tens of thousands of British people and should be in jail for the rest of his miserable, godforsaken life. But he isn't, for some reason. I don't know why. Anyone there? Anyone knows? Answers on a postcard. But yeah. And then finally, we're going to have the sensible newspaper, the one sensible newspaper, and it is the FT, the Financial Times. In Indonesia's fight to hold onto its democracy, and paranoia is Nvidia's chief's rocket fuel. At the top there, we've got Britain's win. Norris claims F1 driver's title in Abu Dhabi, and they're spraying alcohol-free champagne there at each other, because they're not allowed to spray real champagne on each other because they're in the UAE and it's a Muslim country. And is there any outrage about that? Is there any outrage? Is there the right wingers, the right whingers? Do they ever moan about the fact that the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix ends with them spraying carbonated grape juice over each other because they're not allowed to use champagne? Is that a problem to the gammons who are like, oh, Sharia law, it's going to be Sharia law? It's almost as though the country in question, the UAE, is somewhere that they don't want to criticize because it's somewhere they want to move to. Because you know what matters more to these people than Sharia law taking over everything? Them having to pay taxes. That matters more. They don't like having to pay taxes, so why not move to somewhere that literally has Sharia law? Because they don't really care about Sharia law. What they really care about is just creating divisions amongst the rest of us. You know, divide and rule. Divide and rule, the British Empire's fucking motto. There you go. Fed set for rate cut despite splits over prospect for economy under Trump. Weak jobs markets, thirst concern. President primed to defend policy. High prices weigh on low earners. The US Federal Reserve is widely expected to cut interest rates this week despite deep splits amongst its policymakers over prospects for the economy, as signs grow that lower income households are feeling the pinch, and Donald Trump prepares to mount a defense of his economic agenda. That's what it says there. And then we've got Hollywood fears that the £83 billion Netflix Warner deal will trigger fresh wave of job cuts. Also, Hollywood is bracing itself for more belt tightening and job losses if Netflix's $83 billion deal to acquire Warner Brothers goes through, as entertainers and the industry's powerful unions urge regulators to block the transaction. Okay, my friends, I am not any kind of mystic. I have no idea what's going to happen in the future. All I can do is make an educated guess. Let's reconvene. 2 years to the day. The 8th of December, 2027. I want us to come back here onto this channel together, whatever form it takes in the future. I don't know. Maybe I'll be an alien. Maybe I'll be a robot. Maybe I'll be upside down. Maybe I'll be in space. Maybe I'll be under the sea. I don't know. But I think we should come back together as friends, respectful colleagues, and we should see if I'm right about the fact that I don't think that this merger between Netflix and Warner Brothers is going to go through. And here's my theory. I don't think it's meant to go through. I don't think that Netflix has any interest in buying Warner Brothers' back catalogue, even though it includes some of the greatest films ever made, including Casablanca. I do not think that that is the case. Why? Why do I not think that is the case? Because the number one streaming platform in the world is Netflix. The number 2 is Amazon. And number 3 is Warner Brothers, right? HBO Max and whatever else they fucking own, right? So this is the number 1 buying the number 3 streaming platform. Number 1 buying number 3. First of all, I don't think that's legal. I think that it'll be blocked by the US courts at some point. But I think that the people at Netflix know that it's not legal. Because here's the thing. For the next 2 years, while this goes through the courts, because it will be challenged every step along the way, right? While this goes through the courts, Warner Brothers aren't going to be able to do shit. Are they? How are they going to get investments? How are they going to buy some other company with this takeover, this hostile takeover hanging over them? How are they going to do it? They're not. This is a wonderful way for Netflix to absolutely kipper one of its biggest competitors, to neutralize it by saying, yeah, we're taking over. Might take 2 years. We might not take over. I think we're going to be here in 2 years' time. Netflix won't own Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers will be a shadow of its former self. That's what I think. That's what I think. I might be wrong. I might be wrong. I might be unpleasantly surprised, as I often am. But let's meet up in 2 years' time and let's say, do you remember that? Do you remember the Netflix Warner deal? Do you remember that? Do you remember whatever happened to that? Meanwhile, the Navy turns up the volume on Russia's submarines. The latest Russian submarines are quieter, allowing them to slip through oceans largely undetected and pose a threat not only to shipping lanes but to Europe's vast undersea infrastructure. This is the submarine here. Now, the issue here is if the Russians come and start snipping our cables, which is very easy to do, it means that our communications go down. They can make the internet go down for large numbers of businesses and people in the country just by snipping through a few wires. Those cables are marked on maps. It's not like the secret. It's not like nobody knows where these cables are. And there's dozens of them, which go under the sea, and submarine cables, as they're called, and carry all of our information superhighway bollocks. And we're in Ireland, and we're acutely vulnerable to having those cables snipped, and you can't really patrol them. The only thing you can do is make sure that no Russian submarines get into the English Channel, for instance. But if they're quieter and they're going to keep trying to push. They're going to keep trying to push. As we've said on this channel many times, Putin and Trump are bullies, and they'll just keep going until someone says no, until someone stands up to them. That's what bullies do. They don't just stop of their own volition. If everyone fucking bowing down in front of them and giving them medals to pin to themselves. And we'll go through the briefing on the on the Telegraph here. We've got Watchdog acts as critical safeguard on risky lending. Ukraine's leader at number 10. So that's Zelensky is coming to number 10. We've got today. Amazon Green Energy vow. We've got benefits shake-up in sight. We've got Hegseth tightens US forces. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has vowed to restore US military dominance in the Western Hemisphere. Fuck off. And then we've got SpaceX in share sale talks. Elon Musk's rocket maker is in talks with investors on a share sale that would value it at $800 billion. Most of which comes from American taxpayers who blow up his penis-shaped ships. And then we've got Benin coup thwarted and a mutiny by a small group of soldiers went on national television to say they're taken over and ousted the president Patrice Talon, which has been foiled. It's been foiled. And also there's crosswords. You can go and do the crosswords, which is always fun. Everyone likes a crossword. Okay, so I think that might be it. I think that might be it for the day. Well, not for the day. I'll be back later, I hope, with a bit of stateside. If our wonderful friend Scott is back from his jollies and he's put some clothes on this time. We should be back at 9 o'clock tonight for a natter about what's happening, all things American, all things Americana. We shall see. We shall see. But until then, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the super chats. A big shout out to the mods as well, the mods and the rockers in the chat. Thank you very much to people who are very, very kindly giving their time to make sure we don't get any horrible little twatty bloody ne'er-do-wells in the chat. So thank you very much to our moderators. And thanks to everyone who dropped a super chat in. That's very, very kind of you. Before you go, I will ask, please give us a like. Please, 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 don't make me beg. And if you're not subscribed, half of you are not subscribed still, please hit the subscribe button. That's all you need to do. And hit the bell notification icon if you want to be hassled when we go live. If not, don't. Okay? But please, please subscribe either way. So, can they have a RAM added? I don't know. Get some random access memory. Get that added. Get it added. I don't know. I don't know. We will see. Okay, so until 9 o'clock tonight, or 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, when I'll be back with another morning brew, I'll say thank you very much for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.